accepting an offer from Google for their engineering practicum internship. Halfway through, I was so ready to give up on my major. I decided to take up on this offer of an unpaid internship. I made a lot of board games while I was at the school. Got to dip my toes a little bit in that ML space as well, Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Tina and I'm a software engineer working at a FAANG company in New York City. And I like to make videos about tech, lifestyle, finance, all sorts of things, and truly just anything that I feel like. So if you like what you see here today, then feel free to subscribe and like this video and check out my other videos on software engineering. If you go to my channel, you'll see a whole playlist of it, so be sure to check that out after this video. But this video is going to be all about my career in becoming a software engineer from start to finish. So I'm going to talk about the exact reasons why I went into software engineering or computer science, how I chose my school, the different internships that I've had, and of course, the full-time that I decided on. I'm not going to tell you guys the exact name of the company that I decided to work full-time, but it's just for my own privacy and safety, so I hope you guys understand. But I'm super excited to be doing this video. So I want to quickly preface this by saying I'm so extremely grateful and lucky to have these past experiences, but also just the privilege of being able to go to school. And because of that, this amazing school, I was able to get these opportunities. So I just want to say that I am very privileged and lucky in my own way. If you are watching this and you're in college and you didn't get an internship right away in freshman year, that's not a big deal. Most people don't get internships their freshman year. I think freshman year, I gave up a lot of things to get this internships. I really valued my ambition a lot more than like my social life, for example. So I didn't really make as many friends as I wanted to in college and freshman year specifically. So I think that's one of my biggest regrets. And I can do a whole video about regrets in college. I think a lot of good things also come with a price. So you really have to weigh out, you know, like the pros and cons and all that. I don't want to make it seem like I had a perfect school life and everything kind of fell on my lap, because that was definitely not the case. But I also don't want to make this video super long and talk about all the complications and all the different struggles that I personally went through, because that would make this video extremely long, just like how this little monologue of mine is going. So yeah, let's get started. This might be a fun fact about me, but I actually love video games. Ever since I was like in 5th grade elementary school, I loved playing the PS2 games. So I played a lot of Kingdom Hearts, played a lot of Radiata Stories, I played just all of these JRPG games, and I was really intrigued by how these characters kind of came to life in this three-dimensional space, and I was able to interact with these characters, play as these characters, and the storyline and the narrative really pulled me into the world of games. So I was really interested in knowing more about how I myself could create one of these games one day. And one of my biggest goals as a high school senior, I remember, it was, again, I played a lot of Kingdom Hearts, I played Final Fantasy, so I was really interested in becoming a Square Enix developer and possibly going on to create the next Final Fantasy game in the franchise. And that was one of the big reasons why I decided to major in computer science. I decided to take a couple computer science courses in high school, so I took AP Computer Science. I also took a Visual Basics class. I've never touched any kind of computer programming language before. I feel like I did really well, and I found something that I was good at, and I found something that I was really interested in. So because of that, I was like, I want to give computer science a try. So that's why I decided to apply to colleges being a computer science major, as well as possibly looking into game design minors. I ended up going to University of Southern California with a major in computer science games, because it was the best of both worlds. I got to do both. I got to do both computer programming as well as game design and game programming. So I just thought that it was just the best that was for me. I truly felt like the major was for me. I had such a blast just learning about computer science, but also just learning more about games, not just digital games either, but about board games. I made a lot of board games while I was at the school. I also worked on a senior thesis project that was super cool. It was called Upbeat. I'll probably insert a clip here, but it was an amazing experience. I feel like I'm putting so much fluff here because I just really missed the time back at USC. Although I talk about these amazing experiences, freshman year, I feel like halfway through, I was so ready to give up on my major and go straight into interactive media. And I can talk about that in a whole nother video about what it feels like to be a female engineer. And I know that game space is definitely not the best either for women. At the school, USC, I felt like there were still more women in the games program versus the engineering program, surprisingly. So I was really ready to kind of switch, but then I think I talked to one of my mentors and he really talked me into staying within the major. So I just decided to stick through it, and I worked really hard freshman year to look for internships, even if it was unpaid. And I'm gonna say right now, I think they should definitely be paying interns. no matter what the skill levels are. But I decided to take up on this offer of an unpaid internship with a professor at USC, and I honestly don't regret doing it. Again, I cannot sit here and say that you should do an unpaid internship, but from my own experience, I had a really great time learning from this professor, and I also loved working with the people there. All in all, I got what I wanted out of it in terms of the skills that I needed, because this was a user experience internship, so it was not technical, it was just user experience within the game space. So we did a lot of research on mobile games, on different apps that are being widely used today. So I had such a great time working with this team, and the professor actually ended up writing a lot of rec letters for me for scholarships, for other jobs. I ended up really loving the experience, and I got really good opportunities out of it. But again, I do not want to endorse any kind of unpaid internships. You should definitely do your research on this, weigh out the pros and cons yourself. So once I did this user experience internship, I did this throughout the school year in my freshman year, starting in October, I believe, and I did it until the summer, because by the summer I had an internship with NASA at JPL, which is like basically an hour away from USC. And I actually got the internship because my soon-to-be manager at NASA actually saw my resume and saw that I had a user experience internship, and it was interested in doing some sort of a project that would require a lot of user research. He was at first really interested in that experience, but once I got there, I was like, I really want to do something more with software engineering. He actually gave me the space to do that, and that whole team was kind of ML, machine learning based, so I actually got to dip my toes a little bit in that ML space as well, which was amazing. I wouldn't say that internship was my best experience, to be completely honest, but I think that's just like very, very unique to my own experience. It has nothing to do with the agency whatsoever. I've had my friends who absolutely love their team, and actually came back to go back on that team or intern on that team again. I still had a great time. I learned a lot from that team, in terms of what I wanted from an internship, what I wanted out of a manager, what I wanted out of the team. So I feel like I gained a lot, not just technically, but also just like my experience personally. So when I went back into my sophomore year, I actually did the user research internship again. I kept doing that for another semester, but then I eventually gave 2 weeks notice just to stop doing that so I could focus on school. I still have that connection to that professor to this day. I think she is one of my greatest mentors, and I respect her so much. So I'm really, again, so glad that I did that internship. The second year, I actually ended up going to a Grace Hopper conference in Houston, I believe, and I got sponsored through the Anita Borg Institution. I interviewed a bunch of different companies, but ended up accepting an offer from Google for their engineering practicum internship. I believe now it is called STEP, but I got their internship in the YouTube headquarters. So I went to San Bruno that summer, had a podmate, and had so much fun doing this internship. This internship was probably one of the best internships I've ever had. The team was absolutely amazing. I learned so much from this internship. I learned Python. I learned all sorts of technologies that were really useful for my later on in my career. And the podmate was really fun as well. And I got to attend a conference that was just made for YouTubers. I wouldn't say YouTubers, but like YouTube engineers. They flew me out to Los Angeles for their convention, which was so fun. And it was a really, really great internship, and I learned a lot. I think that experience really solidified me wanting to go into the software engineering industry rather than a game industry. So at that point, I think freshman year, I was still convinced that I still wanted to do games and be a games engineer. So I was still contacting games companies. I reached out to that game company by Genova Chen, who actually also graduated from USC. He created the Journey game, which I was in love with at the time. So I messaged their company. I messaged Square Enix, obviously, the London-based team. So I messaged a lot of games teams, but I think they were obviously looking for a lot more experienced engineers. But by sophomore year, I feel like I wasn't entirely sure that I wanted to do games for my full-time career. So I wanted to explore a little bit more within the software engineering industry, or like the regular computer engineering industry, more so than games at the time. I also went back to Grace Hopper my junior year through the Walt Disney Company, and that's how I actually ended up getting the internship at the Glendale Studios. Honestly, Tech Behind the Magic was probably the best experience I've ever had. It was so much fun. They actually flew us out a day or two earlier before the Grace Hopper conference, and they took us behind the scenes of all the, because I think this was in Orlando, so they took us behind the scenes of all the Imagineering. They took us to the Frozen ride. They let us talk to engineers who worked on, Splash Mountain. Let us talk to people that were just worked on on these rides from start to end, and it was such a cool experience. And I think when they bring that back again, all the ladies out there and non-binary folks, be sure to apply to the Disney Tech Behind the Magic program. It is probably the best experience you will ever have. It's so much fun. I decided to return the third year, my junior year summer, to go back to a Google-based team. Once again, I had so much fun. I feel like junior year summer was pivotal because it really solidified what I wanted to do, what kind of technologies that I wanted to work in, what kind of teams that I wanted to be with, and just where I wanted to be located, and like the fact that I didn't really want to work in games anymore. I wouldn't want to say that I crossed out the possibility of going into games in the future, but I think at the time I knew that I wanted to just go into a regular software engineering company. I always forget this internship for some reason, but I also interned at Disney for a semester, a little over a semester, my junior year. So I worked in their Glendale office. They have different fields within the company. So they have Walt Disney Studios, they have Walt Disney Animation Studios, they have interactive media. I was part of their Walt Disney Studios within their tech section, obviously. I honestly love this team as well, and I can make another video about how to balance schoolwork and work life, because I think I went into the office probably 2 to 3 times a week, and if I went 2 times, I would work 10-hour days, but I never worked more than 20 hours a week. That was like not allowed, I don't think. I think there was like some sort of California law at the time, or some sort of a law where you're not allowed to work more than a certain time. So I definitely didn't go over that limit, but I still wanted to make sure I provide use to my team. So there was nothing out of the sorts of, oh, so the team was forcing me to stay or the team was forcing me to work a certain hours. It was all on me wanting to do this for the team, because I love the team so much, and I also love the experience that I gained out of it. And I would say if you're taking easy classes, I wouldn't say it's the worst thing if you just take a lot of breaks. I remember during my 10-hour days, I would literally take a break every hour, at least, if not more. So it was very doable, but I would really recommend you to just take the easiest classes you can and just plan for it. Obviously, senior year, that was the year to just apply to a ton of tech companies. I applied to literally so many tech companies. I was probably flying out every single week for the whole fall semester. I'm not even exaggerating here. I wish I had a Chase credit card back then. And those of you who are gonna be interviewing and being flown out once COVID is over, be sure to get a Chase preferred card, because they will fly you out for free, but most of the time you will probably have to buy your own tickets and expense it with the company. And yeah, you'll get a ton of points, and I regret not doing that. So, and I ended up choosing a company that I'm not gonna name here, and that's the same company that I'm still here with today. That about wraps up my career journey to becoming a software engineer from a nerd who just liked video games. And I hope that kind of inspired you all to think about going into software engineering, especially if those of you who are interested in games or things that are adjacent to, I guess, computer science, because a lot of people think computer science might be just theory-based or, you know, boring. You just sit at your desk all day, but I could tell you that is far from the truth. It really becomes what you make of it, in my opinion. So if you don't want to sit there all day, then get up and walk around or like talk to people. Do not be discouraged. I hope this video wasn't too long. I talked forever, but yeah, I just want to put this out there because I know that some of you were curious on how I became a software engineer that I am today. If you guys have any other video ideas or suggestions, be sure to leave them down in the comments below. I'll see you guys next Tuesday. Bye!